Welcome to Grocery Dad. Now, if you're fed up wasting money at the grocery store, or worse still, blowing your cash and your health on junk food every other night of the week, then this video is specifically made for you. Because in it, I'm going to share a simple beginner's meal plan that I've used that you can start right now, and you'll see benefits within weeks. Now, if that sounds interesting to you, I suggest you stick around. Okay, now, there are literally thousands of channels out there talking about meal plans. I obviously haven't watched every single one because that'd be ridiculous. But from what I have seen, a couple of things stand out. They tend to make out that everyone's got this sort of whitewashed, perfectly organized, perfectly planned life, which of course we don't. And there's this tendency to make this topic too complicated, really, and not take much account of why it's hard to start meal planning in the first place, or some of the barriers or mistakes you might have to overcome if you want to make this a habit you stick to. So that's where I'm going to go first. Now, the meal plan itself is coming up a bit later in the video, so you can skip ahead there now if you can't be asked with the rest of what I have to say. Okay, so if you're still here, let's be very clear from the get-go. This is aimed at beginners, okay? Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I just want to be clear, I'm not patronizing anyone or talking down to anyone. It's just there are folks out there who have never meal planned before. They've never gone to the store with that level of organization in mind. And there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone's got to start somewhere, but that can be a little bit daunting. So a quick word on why you may want to start meal planning in the first place, because this is kind of like your underlying motivation. So you might feel you're just spending too much on food and you want to change the path you're on. Start putting more of your money into something else that's important to you. And a good rule of thumb here is to be spending no more than about 10 to 12% of your monthly outgoings on your groceries. But if you're not planning, if you're doing lots of top-up shops, if you're buying snacks on impulse, that sort of stuff, you could easily be shipping a shitload more than that each month. If it's not financial, then you might be driven more by health concerns. In other words, you're just eating too much crap, doing too much fast food, too much takeout. The Uber Eats guys are starting to know your name, that sort of stuff. And this was exactly where I was in my late 20s and my early 30s. Okay, not exactly Britain's fattest man, but I wasn't happy with whatever was going on there. So if that's you, I get it. And then the third reason for you possibly wanting to make a change might be to save yourself time. You feel like you're spending too long wandering around the grocery store, wondering what to get, or making too many trips to the store, and that's sucking up valuable time, or wasting time at home trying to work out what to cook for you and your family every day. Now, of course, it could be a combination of these three factors that's driving you to make a change, but it's important that you have that underlying motivation in your mind throughout this process. Because the good news is that a simple meal plan that you stick to will make a huge difference in terms of time, in terms of health, and in terms of money. But if only it were that easy, right? Well, if it was, everyone would be doing it and there wouldn't be a need for 900 million YouTubers chatting shit all the time about their super easy meal plans. You'd just decide to do it and that'd be the end of it. Of course, it isn't that easy. So I believe it's worth thinking about the reasons, whether real or imagined, that you may have for not doing this already, or perhaps for having tried and failed in the past. Before I get into that, remember the meal plan is coming, but if you've got reservations or if you've tried this before and you couldn't make it stick, I seriously recommend you stick around for the next bit and make sure your head is in the right place before you plow into the food itself. Okay, so the first reason you might have for not meal planning already may well be because you feel it's too time consuming. There are many people out there who believe meal planning just requires too much effort up front, from finding recipes to making shopping lists, and that's all just too overwhelming, especially if you're juggling work and kids at the same time. This I completely understand. And so there is no getting away from how easy it is to get a Macca's or press a button and have food arrive at your door. The only thing you have to do is stuff it into your face. So let's not kid ourselves. This is going to take some effort, and hopefully you're ready right now to make that investment in order to save money, to save time, to get healthy, to achieve whatever's motivating you in the first place. And a quick tip for you here, right? Because the truth is, once you get into this habit, once you lock it in, meal planning will actually save you time during the week and probably reduce your stress levels right down, because you're going to feel more in control over what you're eating and how your week is going. So the bottom line, suck it up, get on with it. Now, a second reason, or fear, I guess, that you might have is that a plan will tie you down. You know, it won't be flexible enough. It's going to get boring really quickly. And there's a good chance you might have experienced meal plans in the past that were too rigid, or they felt like some sort of set menu. And that can obviously be frustrating. And then that can lead to disappointment that this thing isn't what it was cracked up to be. And the truth here is that meal plans shouldn't be carved in stone. A sustainable plan allows for flexibility. So you can switch meals around or use leftovers without a problem, or even have a cheeky takeout every once in a while. So a lot of your success will come down to how you set yourself up for it. And I'm coming to that part in just a moment. So don't run off now, start ordering your dinner in. Stay here. But perhaps the biggest challenge that you're going to face is setting yourself unrealistic expectations. And a lot of these other channels, they make it look so easy. Like you're going to go from nothing to planning these sort of Gordon Ramsay level meals every night, every day, and somehow kind of organizing your kitchen as if you were the head chef at Providence or some other top-notch restaurant out there. Some people set themselves these overly ambitious plans with complicated meals or think they're suddenly going to cook from scratch every night. And then it's completely understandable when real life kicks in and that plan falters that you feel discouraged. So I recommend you absolutely start this thing out simple. You've got to be realistic. You've got to be honest with yourself. There's no rush at the end of the day. So start off with easy meals that fit your lifestyle to make sure this change sticks. Okay, remember, stay tuned for the plan. It's coming up very soon. But first, let's do a quick recap. You've decided it's time to make a change. Could be to save money, could be to start eating more healthily. Keep that motivation, keep your motivation right at the front of your mind, because that's what's going to keep you going if and when things get a bit tricky, get a bit iffy. And with that, face into your fears and into your challenges. If, for example, you know that in the past you didn't feel you could put the time into meal planning, this time make it less time consuming and keep reminding yourself that everything you're doing is an investment in your own future. And if you're struggling setting unrealistic expectations in the past, then listen up, because fixing that has a lot to do with the quality of your pre-planning. Now, this is another piece of the pie that a lot of people just skip over altogether, but it's what you need to do before you start cooking, before you even set foot in the grocery store, if you want to give yourself the best chance of winning at this whole meal plan shizzle. So, tip number one, check your pantry, stock your pantry. Or just your cupboard's fine. You don't have to be some sort of wanker with a pantry to make this work. If you haven't been planning meals and scratch cooking before, then you probably don't have many, if any, potentially, of the basics on hand that go into a lot of dishes. So you're going to need to have this shit ready to go. Because if you're missing some of these essentials, then your chance of failure is really, 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 really high. Now, coming up are the 12 absolute essentials that I recommend you stock up on before you launch into your meal plan. Now, as with a lot of things in life, with the possible exception of felonies, I guess, there's no actual hard and fast rule here. So if you're allergic to onions or some shit, then feel free to give those a miss. Nothing bad will happen to you. Or if you think olive oil is a disgrace, you can use some other kind of oil, vegetable, cod liver oil. Maybe not that, but right, you get the idea, yeah? And the idea is you'll need something to cook things in. Olive oil is a good choice. It's clean, it's multi-purpose, it's worth going with, but you can choose something else if you prefer. Go with the essence of this list and adjust it to suit your specific requirements. But by all means, put it in the comments if you do think olive oil is a disgrace, because I'd love to know why, and I'd love to hear what other kind of oils you think are a better option. Do it. Absolutely do it. Go for your life. Okay, so the 12 essentials you're going to need are pasta, rice, canned tomatoes, a selection of beans such as butter or kidney, which can be canned or dried, but I recommend you start off with canned. That oil, such as olive oil or similar, some form of stock like chicken or vegetable. Cubes will be fine for now, but the progression on this one is to make your own somewhere down the line. Then come veggies, including things like onions, carrots, celery. Then you have garlic, dried herbs and spices. Think here oregano, cumin, thyme, rosemary, and so forth. Next up, dairy products, including eggs, butter, cheese, and then canned fish like tuna or salmon, and frozen vegetables like peas or sweet corn. So now, if you need to, pause the video, go check your house for these 12 essentials and stick anything that's missing on your shopping list. Done? Terrific. Once your meal planning is up and running, be sure to keep on top of your inventory of these things. And that's how you'll avoid running out or doubling up and having things go to waste. And here's another little bonus tip for you, because the more familiar you get with what you have in the house, the easier it's going to be to make those sort of ready, steady cook kind of meals. You know, that thing where it's not quite planned, it's not quite leftovers, but it's something that you can pull together using the bits and bobs that you know you have available in your house. Usually very quick to do. Could be something like a creamy pasta thing with some frozen peas and some ham. Yeah, it's really nice and easy for a midweek meal and a lot more cost effective than buying some crap sauce in a jar. Okay, number 2 in your pre-plan is to prep when you get the time. Now, this one is going to be an ongoing thing, but you need to have the right mindset for this to work and before you commit to meal planning for the long haul. And all it means is to do some prep when you can do some prep. So if you have 10 minutes to chop some veg that you're going to use tomorrow or the day after, then bloody go and get chopping, yeah? Get ahead of the game, get that stuff in the fridge. Or if you need some marinated meat and you can fit it in the morning, again, get it done. And that way, you're 15 minutes, 20 minutes better off come the evening. Whatever it is, just get yourself into the habit of thinking that next step ahead. And when you get that opportunity, take it so it makes the actual cooking event feel less daunting. Now, number 3 for your pre-planning brings us back to basically don't be overly ambitious with your recipes. Before I start banging on about what I think goes in a meal plan, have a proper think yourself about what you know how to cook today, about what you enjoy eating, and about what it is that you currently eat. Might be takeout, might be from a packet, but something that you could be doing for yourself. And if you bring all this stuff together, you're going to be in so much better a position to swap things in and out if you don't like my suggestions or any other of the 900 million that are out there. And ultimately, it comes again down to being honest with yourself. Because if you're not comfortable with, I don't know, chili con carne on a Thursday, don't pretend it'll happen in week 1 just because somebody put it in their meal plan and said that you should make it. Maybe you'll get there. But in the meantime, for God's sake, pick something that you will stick to and make damn sure that it happens. So now you've done your pre-planning and you've got your head fully round this whole idea. Well done, you've been patient, you stuck through it. So here's my simple weekly meal plan for beginners. Let's assume this plan is for a family of 4, 2 adults and 2 children, let's say under the age of about 15. Now I start with Sunday as my day 1, and that's because Sunday is a really good day to do some stuff in the kitchen and, of course, to get yourself ready for the week ahead. Now, in our house, we often get things going with a roast. Nothing fancy. Chicken is absolutely smashing, probably about 90 minutes in the oven, done with some nice potatoes and vegetables, all roasted in the same tray. And with that, you are away. That's all there is to it, really. Of course, what's even better with this, depending on the age and the number of your children, and I guess your appetites in general, is that this ought to give you enough leftovers for at least 2 more days worth of meals. So you see how you're off on a great foot already. 90 minutes plus some prep, and you've got your meals starting to build up for later in the week. Now in our house, girls are still pretty young, so we generally get 2 more sets of lunches and 2 more sets of dinners from one whole big bird. Now then, you stick that in the oven and you could go put your feet up and have a rest for an hour. Your younger, lazier self probably would have done that shit, but now you're in meal planning mindset because that's the time to crack on with another meal for later in the week. See, get yourself ahead of the game, make life easier for you when you know that you're going to be coming back in from work. So this is a great time to make something like a nice Bolognese. Now, I'm going to leave a recipe for all of these things down in the description. But basically for this, you brown some meat, you sweat some onions, carrots, celery, stick it in there with some garlic, then you put in your chopped tomatoes, your passata, some stock, and that's basically it. Simmer it all in the biggest pot for as long as you can leave it. And then, once it's cooked, put half in a Tupperware for the fridge, the other half goes in a Tupperware for the freezer. And you've got more food stacked up for further in the week. For that day you know will come up when you didn't have anything else prepared. And that will be when you remember this little beauty, and you'll feel smug and you'll feel self-satisfied. And so you should, because that means you're doing this right. Now on to Monday. Long day at work. Not in the mood for anything too wacky. I'm sure as hell not. You probably aren't either. So, I don't know, what about something simple like a creamy pasta sauce? Again, recipe down below, but bacon, garlic, cream, frozen peas, couple of eggs, half an hour, tops. Tuesday comes around. Remember, you've still got delish roast chicken sitting in the fridge. So you can shred it, bung it in a pan with some fried veggies, whatever you have. Maybe leeks or zucchini, bit of stock in there for some extra flavor, cook up some rice, mix it all in together. Maybe throw in some whisked egg for some extra protein, and if you want to get a little bit more exotic. And this is one of those ready, steady cook type of meals. All fresh ingredients, all stuff you had on hand, so no need to go to the store again for any convenience crap whatsoever. Now here comes Wednesday. We're already in the middle of the week, and you recall that Bolognese you made on Sunday. Out that comes. You heat that bad boy up, cook your pasta, job is done. You see, once you get into this planning mentality, how easy it can be to keep those meals coming. But since you know you're thinking with your meal planning head on, how about you give the Bolognese to the kids and you get stuck into a quick chicken curry once they're in bed? Because that way, you're probably setting up yet another 2 days worth of meals for yourself. Again though, nothing too complicated, doesn't have to be too complex at all. Take a slab of chicken thighs, dice it all up, fry it off with some garlic, some spices, whichever ones you fancy, or you shortcut and use some sort of all-in-one curry powder. A little bit of chili if you're that way inclined. My wife always does that. Kids hate it. I tell her, shouldn't have bothered. Get your chopped tomatoes in, get your stock in, simmer that for as long as you can hold out. Run a splash of cream through it at the end, maybe if you like. And again, you are done. Now we're coming into the tail end of the week, Thursday. This is where you might be tempted into a takeaway. Okay, you've been at work a few days, you feel like you might want to just give yourself a little cheeky reward because you've been so good. And look, to be honest, not the end of the world. Having takeout, let's say once every 2 or 3 weeks. That's not going to kill you. That's not going to destroy your bank balance. So if that's the way you go, for heaven's sake, don't beat yourself up. But for heaven's sake, do be disciplined with yourself and don't slip back to once a week, 2 of those a week, because bad shit happens to people who do that. Don't forget as well, though, you've still got your Bolognese, you've still got your chicken curry, but how about another easy option we turn to every now and that is kind of a souped up frozen pizza. So we take a couple of decent but simple cheese and tomato pizzas and load them up with olives, capers, ham, some extra cheese, some extra tomatoes. It's way, way, way healthier than if you went down the route of shop bought with all those ingredients, and probably at least 10 times, if not more, cheaper than a Domino's. On then to Friday, end of the week. You should be feeling good now. You stuck to your plan. You've given yourself loads of options. There's stuff in the freezer that you're going to be eating next week and the week after, potentially. You've not been to the store all week. You've not had a delivery guy around all week. Nice day to drop in some fish. Fish Friday. Either pan fry some salmon steaks with plenty of butter, a little bit of lemon juice, a little bit of paprika. Team that up with some boiled potatoes, some frozen peas or some frozen sweet corn. Or you could go back for a little more pasta. This time, fry off some frozen prawns with a little bit of garlic, splash of white wine, cream, all in one pan with your spaghetti. Again, super easy, right? You can do that. You can do that in half an hour max. And finally, we head through to Saturday, which, very much like Sunday, is the day to be putting a big pot of something on the stove and batch cooking the hell out of another meal. And that meal will then see you right into the following Monday, the following Wednesday, and so on and so on. I hope you can start to see where I'm going with this now. Now this time, you want to have gone and got hold of some of those cheaper cuts of meat, like a beef chuck steak. Biggest pot you've got, veggies, some passata, low heat, simmer for hours. You could, if you wish, make it a bit more special with some suet dumplings on top, a bit more decadent, a bit more indulgent, but don't feel comfortable with that, don't worry about it. Just know that it's an easy progression that you can make in the future. And so you start over. So there you have it, folks. A week of simple, pretty easy, healthy meals. You've had nothing out of a jar. And the real beauty of trying to eat like this is that batch cook. Because when you cook in bulk, you're giving yourself options for later in the week or beyond. You're making life so much easier for yourself, and that just changes the game as far as time and as far as effort are concerned. So if you can get yourself into that sort of mentality, you're going to see very, very quickly not just how your food spend changes, but also how much more in control you feel and how much more you're enjoying cooking and feeding your family. And above all, how good it's going to feel for you to be moving towards the goals that you set yourself. Now, if you liked what you just heard, please give it a like. And if you really liked it, try subscribing and see what I come up with next week. Take care.